We're trying a little different format this year. Can everybody hear us? I'm not sure anybody's going to mistake me for Jon Stewart or you for whoever his guest will be, but we'll try. I think one thing everybody wants to know is here was this extraordinarily charismatic, incredibly important American inventor and businessman, Steve Jobs. How did you get the first job with him?
Well, our first job was for, our first project was for Steve after Apple had pushed him out. And he started Next, which made, as you know, some of you, with those beautiful cubes of computers. And we did, and John was very much part of that, and I think some of the rest of the partners too. We did a nice little office, their first Eastern office in Pittsburgh. It was a modest job. And then they called us up when we were in the middle of doing Bill Gates' house and said, would you come down and talk about Pixar? And that's how that happened. And from there, with other principals, again, John a bit involved, certainly Carl, myself. As you know, some of you read about Pixar, but we saw it as making a loft for Pixar, and that they would inhabit the loft.
And there was a really important central idea here, and at the time, it was a kind of new idea for offices. Can you talk a little bit about that, the central atrium, and how it was meant to be a place where people encountered each other unexpectedly as kind of an incubator for ideas?
Well, I think, I think all of us, a root of what we all do is people and how they interact, how they see, how they feel. And any of you know our work, such as the houses we did in our early years. Norbert knows. We were thinking hard about the nature of each person in each place. And as you deal with groups of people, again, you're thinking about that. So at a place like Pixar, we really made a place for the animators, and they're all younger. At one point, I said to Steve, I was sure I was the oldest person in the building. And he said, yeah, and I'm feeling that way too, although he's much younger. And so he was a great client, and that was a great experience. And we did make a building that fits in Emeryville, that is rather large, but has this great social heart. And as with corporate work and many other kinds of, certainly university work, you think hard about how people interact and where. And so you begin to pick all those things, and you do a bit of social engineering. And we had done that before at universities, such as Frank, with some input from me at the Maxwell School at Eggers. You're thinking hard about how you encourage interaction. And certainly we did that at Pixar. And then we made a place that they inhabited. And then Steve asked us to get involved on the retail.
Well, he was known for being an incredible perfectionist and having an extraordinary attention to detail and to be involved in every aspect of design and have very strong ideas about design.
True.
Now, I'm sure all the architects in the room have had clients who thought they were architects, but honestly, wasn't Steve Jobs in a class by himself? How was he as a client?
Well, my view, one, we are perfectionists of a sort, but we don't always show it, but obviously any of you know our work, again, you know we are. Although you never can believe you've gotten anything just right, because that's almost impossible.
What was he like?
Steve was a great client. And as time went on, I think he trusted us more and more. And I think that's why he asked us to get into retail. And, when he said it was essential that Apple do retail, everyone thought he'd fail. And he proved he was right.
There were a lot of things about these stores that were different from any other stores. First of all, they had very few products. It was about people getting to use
You mean
the
in the
products.
beginning, particularly?
But in the beginning, I mean, basically, there's a small menu of products, but there's a big ability for people to interact with the products. The stores are very spare. How much direction did he give you, and how much did he let you go?
Well, he was involved. Direction is a funny word. He was fully involved, and certainly in those early years, and continued to be. But we were all working at this together, and we were truly the architects, you know.
Yeah.
And so we found together the right solutions, and we brought in great engineers to work with us, like James O'Callahan. That we first, I think we had worked with him on a job that we did up at Corning, but it may have been another one I've forgotten. But then we brought him in once we were into the first two-story store in Soho, and you just put together great teams, and then you drive hard at it. What we were interested in doing was making universal space. When I was in school, because you know I'm older than many of you, not all of you, I admired Conrad Wachsman. Do any of you know who he was? Some do. He was one of Mises' favorite engineers. And they all talked about making modernism, making universal space. Well, it only works to a point. However, you know that those stores that we all worked on have this sort of spirit of a universal space. We had a great vice president of retail, Ron Johnson. We had great other people at Apple. And from those stores, we have now done more in Europe, for instance, in historic places, such as the one I see on the screen now.
That's one of the things I think so interesting is, as you say, despite the fact that they were, there was a kind of universality, you know you're in an Apple store, that the way you've adapted them to places all over the world, each one is really rather unique to its city.
It's a great pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk for a minute, however, about the iconic...
But we've always been thinking about, again, the nature of, Steve said he was at the nexus of science and art. I think we're at the nexus of people, which he would have thought, but I would say. And truly, their full nature, whatever that is, and the nature of places, of course. Where are we? In what city?
Yeah.
You know, are we in a suburban situation or a dense situation? And how we make things. And then you push that as far as you can in that web to get the right solutions. And that's what we've all been doing for years with Apple. And Apple is a great participant.
The store that is the most an object of any of them may be the Cube on Fifth Avenue, which is...
And we've done the glass twice, you know, as we were
Just talk
able
about
to do
why
that.
a cube and how did that idea come? It is the most, Steve Jobs said it was the most successful retail space per square foot of any retail outlet in the world. And it is open 24/7. It's constantly. How did that idea come? Carl and I have sketches that we did of the cube, and you know, we went through the sequence. But if you talk to others, they'll think they all had the thoughts, like Harry Macklow. I think at one point, Harry said, oh. I think in a way, those are the best clients and the best way to make architecture. Everyone believes it was theirs. Of course, Steve loved cubes. After all, he did one of the Next.
great, at Next, he did this perfect cube of a computer. It didn't succeed, but for other reasons. And so it was an obvious thing here. You're not going to do a pyramid, right? And there's a difficulty with a pyramid because it's very hard to get into them.
But you did have a stairway going circling down.
Clearly
like
in the
Mr.
middle,
Pei,
but
right?
seriously in the middle,
Yeah, yeah.
not
Well,
at the edge.
It's a spectacular icon, and stairways are very important to your
And a
project.
stair with an elevator.
The stairs are very important to the Apple stores, and also, I just want to leave on your one of the last projects we discussed, which is a project under construction called New Skin, an
Yeah.
innovation center for a company in Provo, Utah. And there's a beautiful, maybe we can see this beautiful interior, but I wondered, it reminded me a little bit of Pixar, a big open atrium, a grand stair. Is the workplace evolving? Did Pixar influence other workplaces? Do you see a connection?
Sure. However, but everyone is different. This company, and you can just see that construction photo, but the ones we have as of 2 days ago are really, it's cleaned up. It's looking really great now, although it's not done. Those all think about making places for people. In this particular case, here's a company like Avon in the old days, has thousands of people coming back each year for meetings and events, and they're selling, like in Asia, as an example. And so you have to make not only a working building for every day, but a place that people love and thousands of people can inhabit. That's what we've done there.
Well, it's wonderful to talk to you, and I'm sorry it is as short as it has to be, but we want to congratulate you so much.
Oh, I
for
think
your
the
work
firm.
and the firm.
Yeah. No. Thank you. We all know that none of us can do things alone, and in truth, in a practice like ours, we have, 12 principles. And so I wonder if you could come up for a moment.